Hello race fans, welcome to another video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and make sure to leave a like, comment, and ring the bell so that you can be notified on future uploads. I'm currently on the road to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you like my content, make sure to show your support. Today we're going to be talking about the Bristol Cup race that happened on Sunday, and we have already reached the quarter mark of the season. And this is a race everyone was looking forward to, because if you remember last year, the tire wear for that race was absolutely insane. That being said, most of us were of the understanding that the racing product that day was more of a perfect storm of track conditions and a happy accident rather than the new standard, because when we came back for the fall race, the race was more or less the norm for Gen 7 short track racing. That being said, there was an element of uncertainty surrounding the tire wear, since this new compound Goodyear brought for short tracks this year is softer. So, like I said in the Xfinity race, I was cautiously optimistic entering this race. That is, until it was reported that NASCAR decided to add another layer of PJ1 to the track. And just like that, my expectations plummeted. Because once the green flag dropped, that PJ1, man, everyone was all over it. To show you how much the bottom groove mattered, Ty Gibbs had made his way up to third in the opening laps. But by lap 30, he had fallen down to 15th after getting up out of the groove. Now, the first couple laps featured some passing and close racing, but as the drivers would quickly prove, that was only because they were taking it easy on their tires. They were unsure how much they would hold up. But as it turns out, tire wear was not much of a factor, because on lap 40, Kyle Larson, who was running second behind pole sitter Alex Bowman, he just said, "Fuck it, we ball." Dude turned on the jets, took the lead, and never looked back as he just cruised to the stage 1 win. And yes, his tires held up for the entirety of that stage. All 125 laps of that first stage were run under green 2, and not a single driver reported issues with their tires. So this was really disheartening, as this pretty much meant that for the third straight week, the Cup race will be a track position affair. Some drivers towards mid-pack tried to mix it up by pitting during the SVG caution that came out midway through stage 2, but that didn't work. The only guy who managed to make any sort of ground during that stretch was Ryan Blaney, who, as we all know, is the only guy who's able to make passes under green with this Gen 7 car. And even then, he only managed to go from 13th to 8th in Stage 2. And believe it or not, that Stage 2 caution would end up being the final caution for that entire race. Stage 3, which was 250 laps long, would be run entirely under green. Now, there was a moment early on in the stage when Alex Bowman started having engine issues and there was smoke coming out of his car, but he eventually took it to the garage after staying out on track for way longer than he should have. And again, fortunately the caution didn't come out, but yeah, this meant that we would have green flag pit stops at Bristol, an absolute rarity for a short track. And during that sequence, we managed to see Ryan Blaney literally lap the field for a moment as he stayed out longer, hoping for a caution to come out. And if that happened, it would have forced everyone to take the wave around, and Blaney would have restarted from the lead. And with how much track position mattered, I have no doubt he would have won if a caution came out. But unfortunately, it never did. Blaney eventually pitted, as did Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, who had also stayed out, hoping to get lucky like the 12. Larson retook the lead, held off Denny Hamlin, and went on to win. Now, you think I would be thrilled after watching arguably the cleanest Bristol race in NASCAR history, and also for parts of the race we saw one driver lap the entire field, but I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled by this race, and it's because of the same issues we've seen for the past 2 weeks. We saw it at Martinsville, we saw it at Darlington, and we saw it at Bristol. The speed differential between cars is way too small. I remember when NASCAR made the Gen 7 car and they announced that it would put more emphasis on the driver, and everyone was hyped that the cream would finally rise to the top. Well, as it turns out, NASCAR has just pulled the rug out from us, because the cars are just too equal out on track. that driver skill won't make much of a difference. It's all about track position. Kyle Larson, after he retook the lead, he never looked back. He swept both stages and he had a relatively stress-free race. The only thing he needed to do was for his pit crew to not goof off on that final round of stops under green. And once he cycled back in front of Hamlin, that was it. He just cruised to victory lane. Now, people will point out the fact that the race was bad because we had one guy leading 400 laps, and I disagree with that notion. The race was not bad because one guy dominated. The race was bad because there was little passing under green and tire wear did not matter. And yes, there was tire wear. The problem is, like I said, the speed differential between first place and last place is way too similar that it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. That tire compound that Goodyear put together for short tracks, that's the furthest they can go as far as a soft compound without it starting to become a safety concern. We need to stop blaming Goodyear for the lackluster racing product we have seen as of late because they can only do so much. They're a scapegoat at this point. 90% of today's problems would go away if NASCAR just opened their eyes and gave the cars more horsepower. Like, imagine how good the racing would have looked this past couple weeks with, I don't know, 850, 900 horsepower with the tire compound that we have. NASCAR's just acting like their hands are tied for no reason at all, always using the same old BS excuse that it would be way too expensive, even though that argument has been debunked on social media by several people. And instead, they pigeonhole themselves into changing the tracks. The racing at Bristol Dirt was nice, I will admit, but no one asked for that. As a matter of fact, we would rather see racing at a real dirt track. And now there are rumors circulating that either Chicagoland or Kansas could get the Atlanta treatment, aka reconfigure into a super speedway. It's a complete mess because, again, no one asked for this. We would love to see Chicagoland back on the schedule, yes, but not as a super speedway. But anyways, congrats to Kyle Larson. He came pretty close to the triple sweep this time, arguably closer than what he was at Homestead because he finished the weekend second, first, and first. And I gotta say, man, I really wish he won the truck race now. I didn't care that much when he finished second because I thought he had a better shot at Homestead anyway, since Bristol being a short track is way more chaotic and thus the chances of him getting screwed over will be higher. Well, as it turns out, right after I said that, he went out and won both the Xfinity and the Cup races. So now I'm frustrated he didn't win the truck race. I'm blue balled right now. Especially since this is a very emotional time for NASCAR as a whole, since we lost some notable people over the course of the week. For Hendrick Motorsports in particular, one of their longtime employees, John Edwards, passed away. So it would have been really special for Larson to win the triple header in his honor. We also lost Al Pierce, a longtime NASCAR rider who I believe was inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as Shigeki Hattori, the owner of Hattori Racing, who won the Truck Series title with Brett Moffitt back in 2018. As for the race itself, I'm going to give it a D+. I don't think I need to elaborate much as to why. I already said what I needed to say. The main highlight to me was Blaney lapping the entire field during pit stops. That's just how bad the race was. My main highlight, the only time I was paying attention was when Ryan Blaney was lapping the entire field during green flag stops. I was kind of hoping for a caution to come out just to see everyone take the wave around and then Blaney just cruised to victory lane, but unfortunately it didn't happen. As for driver of the day, there were a couple candidates throughout the race. The Spire Motorsports teammates of Carson Hocevar and Justin Haley, they ran top 5, top 10 for pretty much the entire race, or at least up until green flag pit stops. Both of them scored massive stage points. Unfortunately, Haley faded out as the race went on and finished 13th. But it is worth mentioning that he was running as high as 2nd early on in stage 1. And Hocevar was running as high as 3rd before that final round of green flag pit stops. And then he got a slow stop that cost him a lot of track position and he wound up finishing 11th. AJ Allmendinger also deserved a mention. he finished 9th and actually set the fastest lap of the race. He took that bonus point away from Larson. But in the end, I decided to go with Ty Gibbs. After an atrocious start to the season, that 54 team has started to show signs of life. 13th at Barnesville, and they could have finished top 10 too if it wasn't for getting spun out late in the race. Finished 9th at Darlington, which finally broke that long top 10 drought. And now he follows it up with a 3rd place at Bristol. It's still a disappointing season so far, don't get me wrong, but at least they're finally starting to turn the corner. But man, this month of April has been so underwhelming. We were looking forward to Darlington and Bristol as marquee events, and now it's looking like Rockingham, a track where the Cup Series isn't even racing at, is going to be the main highlight of the month. That's just so sad, man.